Heath Woodlief is a senior producer, writer, director, interviewer extraordinaire for Tennis Channel, and now he is the subject of the interview. So we turn things around for the On to Something podcast.
Very rare.
Very rare, but you can handle it. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this. I'm Bryan Fenley, a national anchor at Fox Sports Radio, broadcaster for the USTA on the ATP Challenger level. And this is an opportunity to highlight Heath, what he's done, what he's overcome, what makes him inspirational. And we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this and have for quite some time. So, Heath, I wanted to start here. Why is your dad your biggest inspiration?
I mean, growing up, seeing him, he's a very talented eye surgeon. And the level of patience and just like intensity you have to have for that, I admire quite a bit, because that's something I definitely don't have the patience for. My brother, God bless him, is also a physician. He's not a surgeon, but still, just for them to do what they do, especially in times like these, that's pretty much why.
I would think that if you're an eye surgeon, you would have to do everything you could to try to make the patient comfortable. And what I noticed from you is when you're doing interviews, you make the subject comfortable. How do you get the subject to be as comfortable as possible when you are featuring them, especially if it's in a piece that's hard hitting?
I think it's part of it's just the little bit of lead up you have with them before you start rolling with them, whether you're talking about kids, just you figure out those little nuggets that they're excited about and they like, and you kind of warm them up a little. And then once the interview starts, it's more just a focus on everything and just trying to find out where the interview can go. I mean, I might want a certain topic or a certain thing that I think would be good in the piece, but you never know sometimes where it's going to go or where it's going to lead you. Because fortunately, a lot of my stuff, I don't do any live stuff mostly. So I'm, it's either for a documentary or a feature piece, something like that. So you have a little more freedom, I think, sometimes in that way. And sometimes they surprise you with what they bring out. So it's just being patient and kind of seeing where it goes.
Yeah, you have a certain idea and frame of mind of where the story is going to go, and then you hear something even more compelling and you're like, let's go down that road, and then you throw questions that way. One of the pieces that you were behind was the one where you showcased Kobe Bryant and his intersection with tennis, if I'm not mistaken, and the role that he had played on the sport. For you, what was it like to canvas him and look at how, as his career went on post basketball, how he became more and more ingratiated into the sport of tennis?
I was really surprised by how much he loved the sport, and it was kind of cool. I mean, a few years ago, he was out at the U.S. Open promoting his book, and there was cool buzz around the grounds just knowing that he was there. And then you found out how much of an influence he was on the players with Djokovic and Osaka and Kyrgios, and what he meant to them, and then how much they almost studied his mentality, which I thought was really cool too, because that's one thing with these athletes. There's something in them that you see in other sports, as well, that intensity and that focus where they, it's almost like an OCD where they just, their passion is so focused in on this one thing, especially in tennis, that these guys are able to do it, same thing over and over again. But you could tell they really looked up to him. So that was cool. And that was kind of what inspired the piece. And one of our writers for Tennis Magazine, Emmett Grogan, that was one that he really wanted to do as well. So he was kind of the brainchild behind that. But it was cool kind of seeing that piece grow and come together and working with his team, and they were awesome to work with as well.
Heath Woodlief is our guest, senior producer, writer, director for Tennis Channel. I'm Bryan Fenley. You spoke about focus and intensity. Where does that show up most for you in your work?
Probably, I mean, it's going to sound boring, but pre-production and post-production, because once I get to a shoot, like I almost want it to be relaxed. So all the hard work's before, you figure out what you're doing, what you're shooting, and you just want everything to be calm when
Yeah.
you're at a tournament or on set. You don't want any surprises. So it's always right before, and then in the edit bay as well, because that's where you can have fun with it and try to that's where the story is going to come together as well. So that's where you really got to focus.
When you are in that edit bay, and even when you're done with the piece, how do you deal with that voice in your head that is the perfectionistic voice that says, "Oh, but we could do this or we could do that." But ultimately, you have a deadline, you have to make a decision. So how do you weigh perfectionism and then the creativity and then the execution and the deadline and try to make it all make sense?
Well, I mean, part of the fun for me is just the team I work with, the guys I work with, the editors, the associate producers, my bosses. I mean, everything's a group project, so you kind of trust each other. And I mean, I'll give notes and things like that, but I mean, I've worked with the same editors for almost 20 years, and they'll be like, "Oh, what if we do this?" And I'm like, let's try that, see if that works. And you just kind of. So I don't like to get too locked into one thing. I learned a long time ago that that's a bad way to look at things, and just be open minded into how things can go, because that's how you get surprised and I think make the things better. Um, but yeah, so I think it's just working as a team to kind of figure out those things, and because I might look and say I love this, and then they see it and say, well, what if you did that? And you're like, that's actually even better. Let's do that. So it's just kind of, I think it's just being open to ideas in the edit bay, and seeing what comes together.
How has your perception as a storyteller changed in the years that you've been in the business from, say, when you got your start to now how you look at it now, if anything?
Um, it definitely has changed. It's just it's because every few years you're getting these new crop of players, and in the beginning when I first started, Tennis Channel was brand new, so there was a big wall up kind of against us, where even from tournaments, different places, it was just hard to get access to talk with the players and get them comfortable. And it took a long time to build that trust. So now these younger players come up, and they've seen that we've been doing pieces with these players for years. It's a lot easier now to get access and to get them to open up, and to get them to trust you. Whereas years ago, that was a bit of a battle to get them to let their guard down a little, and let us focus on them. So now, in the beginning it was more about the locations and the tournaments, and it took us a while to get to that point where it can be like really hone in on the players and who these people are.
Yeah.
It took a while to build that, because in the beginning we relied more on our talent, who were former players as well, to get that kind of access, to get them to open up, because they obviously trusted them. They've been on tour, but nowadays, like, you just got to build those relationships, I would say.
If I were to get you to open up, what would you say is the most inspiring aspect of who you are?
It's a tough question. So um I like to think in terms, like I said, I like working with other people. So um I like to just find out what everyone does really well,
Yeah.
and push them, and not so much, because you realize whether it's your camera operators, or different people, editors, everyone has a skill. They're all doing you could say the same job, but some of them do aspects of that job a little bit better than other guys, and it's just kind of picking those things, and using them, and kind of getting everyone to use their talents that really work for them, I think, and push them, and be open minded with them, so everyone can grow together, I guess. I The people I work with are also my friends, and that's something I think that's really important. So I'm not big on negativity or anything like that. So I think that's part of how I work, I guess. I don't know if it's inspiring, but it's just kind of the way I like to do things.
Yeah, it's a warm environment to get the most out of everybody, that collaborative effort, which had to have been there when you put up the documentary Stroke of Genius, Emmy nominated in long documentaries, if I'm not mistaken. And it was where you looked at Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal and that unforgettable 2018 Wimbledon championship. What was it like from your perspective in the efforts that you played in putting that on? And as from a tennis aficionado as yourself, how fun was it just to be able to do that and showcase something that obviously probably meant so much and has meant so much to you, that moment in the sport?
No, I mean that one was awesome, and I was blessed to work on that one because that was the brainchild of John Wertheim, who I've had I've been lucky enough to work on a couple documentaries with him, and he had written a book about that match that is just amazing. And so then it was just kind of a conversation. Okay, how can we put this you know on film? And obviously the match is great, and the I mean, those two players are the icons of our sport. So once they came aboard, then we knew we really had something special.
Yeah.
And then just the way they kind of opened up about that match and each other, I thought was really cool. And that's what I think really made the documentary. I mean, the challenge of it was just we didn't have much time before because we wanted to have it ready by Wimbledon, um, and, and trying to line up. I mean, those guys are busy guys, to get them, to sit down for a few hours isn't easy, but they did it, and lining up schedules. But fortunately, the stars aligned, and we were able to get it done. But no, it was a big effort. The company that Rock Paper Scissors was a production company. They were great to work with. Andrew Douglas, the director, did an amazing job. So there were a lot of hands that went into that to mold that one, but that one we're pretty proud of. So.
You're probably also proud of the fact that you were recently recognized for your screenwriting abilities. I saw you put together a piece not too long ago, and you were top 100 in this competition. How would you explain your approach to screenwriting and how you're able to channel a different form of your creativity there?
No, I mean, I love storytelling in all aspects, and especially because that's what, even with Tennis Channel, we're telling stories of these players and things like that, and there's a lot of different muscles I like to work, whether it's narrative and screenwriting and behind the camera and directing, or documentary style, all those things. So that's something I've always done. When I first moved to LA, I had a big interest in that. I was an intern at Ben Stiller's company. That was my first little gig when I came out, and so that's all you do is kind of hang out and read scripts and things like that. So that's always been an interest for me. So whenever I have an idea or something like that I just want to write down, those are the kind of things that I'll do to kind of work that part of my brain, I guess, and keep it going. So.
And it is going, and it's fun to see. Heath Woodlief is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. What was that first break like for you when you got to Los Angeles?
I don't know if I call it a break, but I worked at Red Hour, that's Ben Stiller's company, and then I worked for another film company, and I was doing kind of more on the business side of the stuff, and I wasn't thrilled working in that. And then Tennis Channel started in 2003, and that had been a passion of mine growing up. I always loved tennis, and it was like one of those things where I applied when they call me, and you go interview, and all of a sudden I'm a few months later I'm at these tournaments with these players. It happened pretty quick, but and it was a lot of fun at the time. Like I said, the company was relatively new, so not a whole lot of people. They were kind of just getting used to us, and to see the company kind of grow over the years, it's been exciting to see.
During that interview process, what did they see in you, Heath, where they knew that they had to bring you on, and maybe they had a little premonition of all the good work you would do in the future?
I'm not sure they did see anything because actually they didn't hire me after the first interview. It was the first guy didn't work out, and then I got a call of you
Okay.
months later and said, "Hey, I guess we'll try you." So, but I don't know. I mean, I think I had a good background in sports production and tennis, and I think they could see that I was passionate about the sport because that was something. Like I said, I was huge fans of Sampras and Agassi growing up, and I played a lot growing up. So, I mean, that's the one thing I think they look for is just it not that it's a requirement, but it helps to have a passion in the sport. I think so.
As a big fan of tennis and someone who, like yourself, plays, getting to play on the grass for the first time, I heard that was a pretty interesting experience for you when you got invited to partake at some Wimbledon warm-ups. Take us into what happened and what it was like when that happened.
No, so at the time we were shooting this show called Open Access with Murphy Jensen. Murphy's a very close friend of mine, and when we got to Wimbledon, I was like, man, I do anything to play on these courts. The next morning, he said, "Heath, bring your rackets." I was like, what do you mean? He says, "Bring your rackets." And he was at the time he was playing in the champions or the Legends event
Sure.
in the doubles with him and his brother. And then we had finished shooting our stuff, and they grabbed me. It's like, "Come on, let's go." I was like, "Where are we going?" He's like, to the practice courts. You're going to be my coach. You're warming up." And so we go out to the courts in Orangi Park at Wimbledon. I've got Justine Henin and all
Wow.
these top pros around me. It's the first time I ever played on grass, and obviously the ball bounces a lot lower. I
Sure.
probably whiffed on the first couple of balls before we started playing, but that was we had people lined up watching us, and that was on the practice courts during the middle of the tournament. I think if they found out I was actually not a player, that Wimbledon would probably kick me off
Oh,
the
stop
grounds.
it.
But so, but that was, I mean, that was really cool. So, but that's the kind of guy Murphy is, though. He's like that. So that's fun.
Uh, Jensen Murphy, or excuse me, Murphy Jensen, Murphy Jensen has been so open about his story
Mm-hmm.
and what he's gone through. How does he move you in the perseverance that he has shown and the strength that he carries himself with?
Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable. He's the just the focus, and just, I mean, he's so outgoing, and he's one of the guys, and I mean, kind of like what I was saying, why we click. I mean, I like everyone to be happy in a welcoming environment. That's I mean, Murphy, times 100. We'd walk the grounds of the tournaments, and he'd sign every autograph, chat with every kid, chat with everyone, and the energy he has. But for him and his own recovery, because that's been so important to him. I mean, in going on now over 15 years, um, it's been awesome to see. And now he always tells me, like, I just want to see how I can serve or how I can help
Wow.
other people, and that's been kind of his mantra. Um, so no, he's an amazing guy. So, but yeah, no, he the seeing him do it, and now what he's doing with this company, We Connect, has been really cool as well.
He's an amazing guy. Certainly, he would say the same thing about you. Heath Woodlief is with us with Tennis Channel. I'm Bryan Fenley. I want to leave you with this last question, Heath, and this has been really neat considering just how much I look up to your work, and obviously for people to understand, you wear a lot of hats. You are a senior producer, you are a writer, you are a director, you are a script writer. You do it all. You're multiverse, well versed in so many different things in production. With everything that you've done at Tennis Channel as a storyteller, as someone who works in production, what does living in that space, working in that space, how has it been cathartic for you?
Oh, I mean, there's a certain, um, it's a tough question, but in terms of cathartic, I guess, you know, just having that creative freedom, and that trust from the company has been nice. You know, they don't tell us no a lot in terms of when we have ideas or stories we want to tell, which is nice. Uh, and so that's really nice, and especially going to these big events, you know, and you're around these amazing athletes, just you know, being in that environment where they're, you know, they trust you to go talk to Roger Federer or Serena or, you know, whoever. It's you know, that's cathartic in a way, and also just you know, the travel and the places we get to go is pretty amazing as well. And you know, for someone who has trouble staying in the same spot, you know, I get a little antsy after being in the same spot for a month or two. You know, just being able to see the world and things like that has been pretty amazing.
Amazing is seeing your work, and you are in a great spot at Tennis Channel, and really enjoy the content and everything you're doing there. Look forward to seeing what is next for you as far as what you're doing as a script writer, director, producer, writer. The list goes on. Heath Woodlief, Bryan Fenley with USTA and Fox Sports Radio. So grateful for your time, and I really enjoyed learning about your story. Thanks so much for making it happen.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.